Hey everyone, welcome to Spurs Beyond the Lane. Let's get jumped into this Premier League game review away to Everton on Sunday. Kickoff is at 4:30 and it is at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. If you want to watch the game and you're not able to go to it, then it will be shown on Sky Sports. So getting on to the next bit, let's look at our head-to-heads together. So last 5 games for both teams, Everton have won 1, drawn 1 and lost 3. Spurs pretty much almost very similar to that. We've won 1, drawn 3 and lost 1. The last games for both was a 2-0 defeat to Man City away for Everton, and for us it was a 0-0 draw with Monaco. So looking at that in terms of head-to-heads, Everton versus Spurs over the course of our history together, we're just going to look at the last kind of 6 games that we have played, and it's a bit of a mixed bag, pretty similar to the Villa one as well. So last game was in January of this year. It was a 3-2 victory at home for Everton. August was the game before that in 2024, which was a 4-0 home win for Spurs. Then we had February 24, which was a 2-2 draw at Everton, followed by the year before that, December 23, which was a 2-1 home victory for Spurs. April 23 was a 1-1 draw at Everton, and then rounding it out in October 22 with a 2-0 victory for Spurs. Overall, in those last 6 games, we have fared reasonably well overall. Every single game, it's kind of been a mixed bag. But as I say, those last 6 games, we've won 3, drawn 1, lost 2, scored 13 and conceded 7. So against Everton, we have the ability to score. We also have an ability to concede. And considering what our current form has looked like, you know, we're not looking like we're scoring anytime soon. And we are shipping some goals, not many. Our defensive back four have been reasonably solid. Our midfield, however, has had pockets of holes, which Villa and Monaco both expertly managed to get into those spaces, create a lot of chances. Villa were far more dangerous. They had only a handful of chances and managed to put them all away. So hopefully for this game against Everton, we'll see those spaces tightening up a wee bit, because if we don't, we will get punished against Everton. As I say, they're a good team at the moment. They are scoring goals and they do look quite dangerous from the midfield going forward as well. So injury-wise for both teams, Everton only 2 people on that injury bench, which is Braithwaite and Patterson. Spurs is a different ball game entirely. We are looking at a whole host of players that are sitting injured and pretty much could probably field a good first 11 with them as well. Tell, Odegaard and Bissouma, Solanke and Davies are all going to be out probably for the next couple of weeks. Maybe getting back in for the end of October, which is what they told us, which would be tomorrow, but it's looking highly unlikely. We're probably looking at the first week, maybe into the second week of November before we see it. Solanke is on grass doing a small amount of training, but not quite back as to where some of the others are. Tell could be out for another week or so, same with Odegaard as well. He's just one that's picked up recently, so we're not expecting them to be out too long. Dragusin and Takai are now looking like it's going to be the end of November, start of December before we see them anywhere near a matchday squad. Kulu, January, probably tail end of December. We're really, really lucky. And Matters is obviously going to be out till potentially April to June, so it all depends on what way his recovery goes. At the moment, it looks like it's going very well from his YouTube videos, and he's earmarking April, but I think all in all, they probably think it's going to be right towards the end of the season, but we can have our fingers crossed for the April break. Romero and Undogi are the 2 ones with question marks over it. Undogi doesn't really have any timescales against his return, neither does Undogi. Both actually reasonably being missed in terms of being able to get forward and being dangerous at set pieces. Romero definitely. Undogi seems very, very good at going forward, but also covering back the way as well. And it just seems a little bit more on the ball when it comes to man marking as well than what Spence has been. And we'll have a wee look at some of the question marks around the actual starting lineup as well. Given that game against Monaco on Wednesday night, certainly a few question marks over who will start and who won't. Danzo will be starting for Romero. As I said, he's not quite fit. And to be honest, he's been an absolute beast in the last few games that he has been deputising, and actually has been really, really solid in all of the games so far. Johnson potentially looks like he's going to be starting on the left wing, just simply because everyone else would appear to be injured. Tell's injured, Odegaard's injured. So Johnson just needs some game time. I think if he had some runs of game time, the last minute kind of chance against Villa, probably would have had that on target, as well as that last gasp attack against Monaco on Wednesday night in at the back post. His preferred position, he's very, very good, probably one of the best at getting in at that back post and attacking and scoring goals. So it was a shame, the right guy in the right place, just not enough game time to make it everything come together, forcing those. So hopefully we start tomorrow against Everton will give him a bit more of a boost going forward. Richie definitely to start. Kolo Muani looked really sharp as the game got on against Monaco, so we're probably edging closer to him being able to challenge for the starting slot. Richie again will have to start up front, but I think we may see a good 30, 35, maybe even 40 minutes at a push for Kolo Muani come the game tomorrow afternoon, fingers crossed. Bentancur to start. It's a difficult one. Last couple of games, he just doesn't seem to be doing an awful lot. Certainly from the games I've watched, the away game in the stadium against Villa, he certainly seemed, apart from the goal right at the start, just seemed to be missing in places within the midfield. And we actually had a lot of gaps throughout that game, but also against Monaco where people were just steamrolling through. Palhinha was solid in all of those games, but, you know, he can't guard an entire midfield when you've got 4 to 6 players charging forward. He can only take one guy out at a time. You know, you can't go after them all. And that's where you really rely on your midfield partner, Bentancur, to step in. So the question mark is going to be, will Starr get a start? He looked really bright against Monaco and driving forward as well and making some important tackles there. But Thomas Frank, in his interview before the run-up to this game, has actually turned around and said that his ideal pairing at the moment is Bentancur and Palhinha. No disregard or disrespect to Sarr. He is playing well. He's performing very well in training, but those are his 2 midfield starters. So unless he's looking to rest them, I would imagine that we'll probably see Sarr coming on from the bench. Moving on to that number 10 slot, you know, the statistics all seem to show, and I know a lot of fans seem to be a wee bit upset with Xavi at the moment, but I always feel that when he plays, we create more going forward. When he comes off, we just seem to dip completely in what we actually do up front. He didn't start the game against Monaco, but you actually seen in the statistics on what we did have in the middle, when he came on with Sarr, our opportunities jumped massively in that game, and the creativity of the whole thing just went into overdrive, and we started playing some clever balls getting forward. We just didn't have the people up front to do anything. I know a lot of people will be pointing to the one where he was driving forward as the most forward player, and he kind of stopped to hold up the play and make a pass, when really what you want to see him was him charging forward. And to be fair, to be honest, he was that far forward that when you're kind of looking off to this side and he's seeing people coming in, I don't think he realised that the guy coming right up over his shoulder was one of ours. I think he did think it was a Monaco player, and that's why he stopped to hold up and retain possession rather than keeping and driving forward. But again, if he is our number 10, you're expecting your centre forward to be further ahead of him, as well as our wingers pushing forward from both sides to give him the outlet to push those balls forward. He's not there to take on the goalkeeper or the defenders to try and score goals. He's there to create, and you can't create if you're the furthest most player forward. Why? Because everyone's hanging back, and that's something we'll go into a little bit of detail once we're finished looking at all of this. Vicario, absolute god in goals on Wednesday night, and the only reason why it was a 0-0 draw, because that man was on absolute fire, and he showed on Wednesday night against Monaco why he is the king of shot stopping in the Premier League. Take everything else away, all the stuff that he does seem to have the wee hiccups with it do lead to opportunities and goals, but his shot stopping on Wednesday night was superb. So hopefully we will see a continuation of those heroics in the game on Sunday against Everton, because they are going to be good at going forward, and we're going to need to be able to do that. Everything he touched turned to gold. His saves, his punches away, you know, his pushes, everything just seemed to tick every box in terms of what you want to see. And it was the first time probably all season where I've seen balls coming in that I actually was not worried that we were going to concede from it, because he was just so good. And it leads into the next question based on Wednesday night's performance. What about Gray? You know, what a performance he had playing in at left back, a position that he has not played in this team for us at all, whether under Postecoglou or any time this season. And he just looked like he'd been there all his career. I know it's not been a particularly long one, but, you know, predominantly right back, played some at centre back, a few games in the middle of midfield. But left back, I'm really worried about on Wednesday night. But there was no worry at all. A key interception, stopping play, recycling the ball out, driving forward, going on to those overlaps, although Odegaard never made any of them because he just doesn't look forward when he's stopping. But that raises a big question is, after that performance on Wednesday night, can we afford to drop him from the left back slot? Should he maybe get a shot in the middle of the park and put Bentancur onto the bench? A few questions to see and a hard one to ask. I think what we'll probably see is Spence coming back into the left back slot, and Gray will probably, if he doesn't start in the middle, will go onto the bench. But the one thing we do see from Thomas Frank is it's very difficult to predict what his teams are going to look like when he's putting them out there. So it wouldn't be a surprise if we actually see Gray starting in on that left back slot. But we'll just have to wait and see. So in terms of head-to-heads between us and nobody else, so na 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 na. So let's get into some facts for this game over the two clubs. 5 of them today. So Everton are unbeaten at home at the Hill Dickinson Stadium. So we will be the first ones, hopefully, to break that hoodoo when we arrive on Sunday afternoon. And it will be a very, very tight game, I'm sure. Second one, Spurs have won more points away from home than any other team in the Premier League with a grand total of 10 points. Some of those coming in key games against Manchester City, as well as that big opening win against Burnley and a really hard fought 2-1 victory against Leeds as well. So we do seem to be doing a hell of a lot better away from home than we are at home, and we do score goals away from home as well. So hopefully it'll be a key indicator for tomorrow's game against Everton. An interesting one though, which is in favour of Spurs, and although it is an Everton stat, it's definitely one that lies in our court. Everton's centre forward pairing of Beto and Barry have only scored 1 goal between them in 16 games in the Premier League, which, if I was an Everton supporter, would be a very worrying statistic for me. But they do score goals, and the goals are coming from other places as well. They have a lot of dangerous players in the middle of the park as well, which leads us on to the next one, which is Everton average 13 shots on goal, with 4 of those on target whenever Jack Grealish plays in the middle of the park, which really does go to highlight how a key player for him he actually is for the club, and certainly one that we seem to have been interested in the summer but didn't make a move on. And to be honest, right now we're looking at that and thinking it might actually have been a better move if we had have done. But you know, these things happen to all of us, and some players work out, some players don't. Just because he's playing well for Everton doesn't necessarily mean he would have been playing well for us. But considering the difficulty we do have out on that left hand side, it might not have been such a bad option. But again, we'll have our own options to look at for the January transfer window as well. So the last one is the 0-0 draw against Monaco. I said it in the previous video, and I'll put it in here just in case nobody has seen it. That game is the first game in 125 games that Spurs have had a 0-0 draw, and that was against AC Milan for the last one. So Sunday is looking to shape up to be a different game, a very difficult one for us. I think we just have struggled to score up front. We are lying too deep. We're not moving forward when we have the ball in numbers. And actually what you're seeing is that when our players on the wing or our number 10 is getting forward, there's nobody to give the ball to. One of the big worries for me against Everton is going to be the space that we are leaving in the middle of the park. As I've said a few times already in this video, against Villa and against Monaco, we had large gaps in our midfield where we weren't tracking back, we were not picking up. And when those players in the opposition broke forward through the midfield, it meant that our defenders were really struggling to figure out who should I be picking up and who actually should be moving out to pick up the guy who has the ball, because every time they were moving, gaps were opening up, balls were getting played in and creating opportunities. I think if I recall correctly, Monaco had something like 27 shots at our goal, and thankfully their players were absolutely woeful, but also Vicario was an absolute god in goal, and there was no way they were going to be putting the ball past him at the time. But luck has to run out at some point, and if we play the same way as we did then and against Villa, then Everton will definitely punish us. Their midfield are very, very strong. So again, we need a strong display from Plania. If Bentancur plays, he needs to up his game. He needs to be making sure he is commanding the ball and the area around him in that midfield to complement Polina, but also to give Xavi or Bergval the space in the number 10 role to do what they're there to do, which is drive forward, create goals, create opportunities, and allow everyone else in the team to do their jobs. Kudus looked like a man possessed on the right wing, but again, because we're not playing far enough forward, he's hitting the byline, cutting into the box, and there's just nobody to give the ball to. So, you know, we really are looking like we desperately need a centre forward who can play in there. Moani looked a bit sharper towards the end of the Monaco game and actually showed wee bits and pieces of what he can provide. And I certainly think if he gets fully fit, he's going to be the man to take that role because he just has a far better all-round game. Richarlison just showed he can't hold and retain and hold up a ball to bring others into the game. And if he's sitting one-on-one, I don't want him to stop. I want him to run at goal, cause problems, force them to make tackles, get us free kicks, get us penalties. That's what he should be doing. So hopefully we'll see a wee bit more drive on that one. Johnson playing in on the left, if that's where he comes in and that's where he starts, then it will be interesting to see how he goes, because when games go well, he is excellent at driving forward with the ball and trying to get past people and putting balls in, or the other side of it, which is hitting that back post. Certainly with Kudus bringing the ball and crosses in from the right, you definitely want to see Johnson coming in onto that left-hand post for those balls coming, so he could be quite dangerous in that game. But again, it all depends on what way it goes and how quickly we can get in amongst it, dictate the flow of play and actually push forward. I think this is going to be an exceptionally tight game, and it's either going to end up being a draw, or if we win, it's going to be a slight win. So we're maybe looking at a 1-1 draw or potentially a 1-0 or 2-1 to Spurs, but it's not to discount Everton. If they click, they could absolutely smash us at home, and as I say, it does look like it's a wonderful stadium as well. So it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out. Regardless, let's get behind the team, let's get behind Thomas Frank, and hopefully we will deliver the 3 points tomorrow. And if we don't, well, we'll just have to take away from it and move on, because we have a hell of a lot of games coming up over the next couple of weeks. It was 6 in 17 days. We're now into 5 in 14 days. So it's going to be a pretty packed schedule, which means we're going to see a lot of rotation. Players starting that we don't expect to see starting in games, and probably a few formational changes that we probably weren't expecting against some opposition. But we have to wait and see. Regardless of what comes, come on you Spurs.